Fascist dictators, dark whimsy, and one key decision that changes the entire story. Guillermo del Toro's latest movie is Pinocchio as you've never seen it before. Guillermo del Toro made something truly magical with his adaptation of the classic children's tale Pinocchio. The stop-motion film is a loving interpretation of Carlo Collodi's original novel from 1883, based largely on the original source material, rather than the Disney animated feature from 1940.
I'm a real boy!
You're alive! And you are a real boy!
While the Walt Disney Company is responsible for arguably the most well-known retelling of Collodi's novel, a variety of other creatives have tried their hand at the tale over the years. In fact, Disney wasn't even the first studio to try and bring the puppet boy to life. Italy has been producing Pinocchio stories since the beginning of film history, with Giulio Antamoro responsible for the first cinematic adaptation in 1911. Raio Verdini and Umberto Spano would have been the first to showcase the character in the animated feature Le Avventure di Pinocchio, but the film was never completed and is now considered lost. Interestingly, if the film came to fruition, it would have been the first cel animated feature film in history, arriving a year sooner than Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Pinocchio has made appearances in countless made-for-TV specials and feature presentations from across the globe, and he has had his fair share of questionable interpretations too.
Evil comes in all shapes and sizes.
1996 saw the release of the horror film Pinocchio's Revenge, while Jonathan Taylor Thomas played the character in The New Adventures of Pinocchio just a few years later. Notably, this version aligned with both Disney's movie and the original novel in that Pinocchio becomes a real boy at the end of the story. Despite the numerous versions of the Pinocchio story brought to the screen, Guillermo del Toro's film feels revolutionary for switching up this creative decision. Del Toro spent over a decade trying to bring his vision to life, with the streaming juggernaut Netflix helping push the film across the finish line. With all the time and support poured into the film, it's no surprise that it became the best Netflix original release of 2022. Pinocchio is a stunning, inventive, and heartwarming story, but Del Toro made one major change to the beloved tale. In a recent piece from Deadline, Del Toro talked about how the script came to be. He co-wrote Pinocchio with Emmy Award winner Patrick McHale, who is best known for writing Adventure Time and Over the Garden Wall. While the character of Pinocchio is synonymous with the idea of becoming a real boy, Del Toro did not want his wooden boy to become human, or even desire to become one. He told Deadline, "When I was a kid, I said, so what it means to be loved is that you have to change? I couldn't accept that. So the writers took the classic material and retold a few strands of the original to change the key of how the material could sing. It's a welcome change that brings an important message to young viewers, that they are wonderful and worthy of love exactly as they are." Guillermo del Toro's decision to bring in Patrick McHale to work on the script was particularly clever. Shows like Adventure Time and Over the Garden Wall share a similar DNA to his version of Pinocchio. All three stories are filled with plenty of fantastical whimsy, but also aren't afraid to introduce difficult themes to younger viewers. Del Toro told Deadline, "I knew I needed somebody who writes for animation because you write very differently for animation. The way you write dialogue is entirely different." It was this line of thinking that also inspired the decision to set Pinocchio during the fascist dictatorship of Benito Mussolini. According to Del Toro, this was done as a means to display a world where everyone behaves like a puppet. This was a truly inspired decision, as the cursed Pleasure Island scene made famous in Disney's version is replaced by a fascist military youth training camp in Del Toro's. The sentiment is the same, sending Pinocchio to a locale designed to irreparably change young boys, but based on a horrific reality. These adventurous changes ultimately helped elevate the classic story to the next level and solidified Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio as a must-watch for all ages.